Welcome to another episode of 4 a.m. in quarantine. I am here, just super excited for our next guest. Also happens to be another one of my really close friends, business partners, and someone that I, look up to myself in everything that he's doing, inspiring the world left and right, and just can't wait to, hear his story and have that, portrayed out into the world. None other than, I just want to introduce myself real quick. Steve Rivera, I'm your host. Now, some call us Steve Squared. Others will call him Steven Mazzurco. I am here with a former pro athlete, serial entrepreneur, and of course, new author of his book, 7 Rock Life. Extremely excited for you to share a little bit about that. Just want to give everyone an idea of, how you got to where you are today. Just give everyone a little bit of a background. And I just want everyone to hear what your story is, man.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate Steve Squared. No, it's been a pleasure. I mean, knowing you for a little over 2 years now, and just seeing your spirit, you and your fiance, soon to be wife, but excited for you to have the show and an honor to be on it. So I really appreciate it. And I think more than ever, value, we were just talking about it. Value is such an important thing in today's world and culture, and those that create value will create revenue. And I think what I've loved about you is you've always just wanted to give value to people. You can see your genuineness in your spirit. So kudos to you, my man. And
I appreciate that, man. I really appreciate that.
No, how you do anything is how you do everything.
That's right. You like that? Live by that every single day, man. Every single day I sit on this couch in the morning, get my meditation in, and I'm always looking at that because it's a huge part of just how I live every single day.
Yeah, and you're branding to the max. Revival, our boy Chance with Third World, Penn State.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So quick background on me. I grew up in New York and Long Island. I was a baseball guy my whole life, played sports. Sports was everything from 3 years old, 4 years old to 24. Played, D1 college at Stony Brook, played professional for a couple of years. So I think sports really is what made me who I am. The trials and tribulations, understanding winning, understanding work ethic, learning how to play injured in life, especially now. Many people are injured during this time, and we'll get into that, I guess, later, of just how to go into reinvention mode versus survival mode. But those principles is what I was able to get from sports, learning how when you get hit, you're getting back up, and just valuing life. So my first business was a toll booth online at 19 years old, 20 years old. It was in the e-commerce world, built it for my dorm room. Was doing 7 figures a year by the time I was 23, 24 in revenue. So did very well with that. Still have that. Mentor and coach people, a few people a year in that model. And then spoken, was able to give back and be a speaker around the country and around the world, spoken to multiple countries. And then over the past 2 years, 3 or so, my life really shifted where I was in a relationship that, didn't work out, and kind of lost who I was, went through a dark time in my life. And what's crazy is that those dark times, sometimes you don't see the light, but the outcome through that dark time is when you really start to figure out who you are. And I was able to be extremely vulnerable and real with that, right? I think being vulnerable is not a weak thing. It's a strong thing. You just don't want to live in your vulnerability. You want to learn from your vulnerability. And through that came the brand 7 Rock Life and writing a book. It was something that was really to give value to others. It was after going through those times and just self-discovery. Right now with the quarantine and everything, I think this is the first time that their life has slowed down. And this is the first time that they're starting to discover who they are, who their spouse is, who their family is, what life's about. And I think the way people are feeling now is how I felt 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, when I got off social media for like 4 months. I wrote the book in 59 days. I just had all this stuff I wanted to share, and in 59 days just wrote the book and was off the grid and just woke up, and I had the same feeling that everybody has now is what I felt like before. World's caving in, what's going on? But I said, am I going to stay in complaining mode or creating mode? And then through that, the book, podcast, we hit 60 plus countries. Then we have the Power Hour clothing brand. We're actually doing a rebrand, relaunching our 7rocklife.com apparel and creating a brand with that. And then also livingtoinspire.com, which was our inspirational music festivals. Obviously that's been halted. So what's so crazy is all those moments, I think sometimes, your first dream is God or the universe's draft preparing you for the dream he had along for you. And so we have to understand that sometimes it's a draft of what we're doing to prepare us for later. So that's just a long story short, in kind of a nutshell of my background. And what I enjoy the most is just giving value and helping people become the best version. But I think you need to figure out what your best version is, you. And then from that, you can really change the world after that because you're anchored into the right route. So.
And man, that's really what I love about you is the fact that, listen, you're man enough to go through what you went through and then share that with others, right? And you have the power to either sit back and kind of hold that all in and keep that to yourself, or share that with the world so that those who are either going through that or could potentially learn from what you went through and avoid those same mistakes and bumps in the road. It's unbelievable how you're able to go and really write that story in 59 days and get that out to the world. Give us a little bit about you know how you went through all that and still wound up being able to put that all on paper during those times, um, and keeping that mindset so strong throughout those times.
Yeah, I think one of the rocks of life is organization. And what helped me in writing that and helping you people get through this time right now is how organized are you in your life, in your business, in your next steps, right? I think even when I was playing sports, when you're not organized in your locker, or you're not organized in your approach at the bat, when you're approaching a pitcher, knowing what he is going to throw, his tendencies, or football, or whatever sport you are, if you're not organized with your approach, I think you're setting yourself up for failure, right? So going back 2 months before starting to write the book, I was downstairs and I was reading a book called Never Give Up. And it was a perfect time, and it was such a great book that who would have thought that it would turn into a brand by reading page 28. And on page 28, it said, if your goal is to fill up a cup and you have rocks, pebbles, sand, and water, which one goes in first? And the rocks. So I dropped the book. I was kind of just tearing, crying. I was just lost. And I said, what are my rocks of life? And I started just naming them. I was like, spiritual, my relationships, my finances, health, income, organization, personal growth. I said, wow, there's 7 areas or 7 rocks of life. So from that day, I was just like, all right, let me work on each rock of life. Because when I was not hitting a certain rock, I felt off. I think we're all that way, right? There's just something missing, whether it's with your family or your business or whatever it is. Right now, many people's financial rock is probably off. So there's something off. So this was more of a framework. It was a way to anchor me, for my life. And then I started sharing with people that I was mentoring. And it was just an organized system. It was kind of like an Amazon for personal growth, where it was like, hey, these are the 7 areas, but below these 7 areas, there's things to learn. So what happened was I started learning by reading and podcasting. And then when I learned something, I said, okay, like that's in health rock. Then I was like, oh, that's in personal growth rock. That's in financial rock. So I started kind of putting all the content and things we're learning around us, from conversations, whatever, in certain rocks of life. And I said, wow, there's like a kind of a like established system. And below that, there's like categories. And those categories, there's different apparel in a way. And then I just said, let me document this. I don't know if it was universe or God. Somebody said I had, like, you got to write this down and put it like in a book. And just one day I started writing. This was my 3rd time ever starting a book, because I a few times before, I write it in the beginning of a book, I just felt like I just wasn't ready. And this one just flowed. Like when it flows, it flows. And every day I just was like writing, and it was on the plane or traveling, or it was on my phone. And then what was cool about it, and I'll finish with this, was that it was fresh, it was new. And it wasn't like I can't write that book right now. If I had to, I can only write it at that time, which I love because it hits home with the reader. And a lot of the people that read it says it's a book that they finish and it's a book that they go back to. And I don't take credit for it. I just wanted to be a messenger to other people. And especially now during these times, is that we can get through these dark times. Like I have total confidence wherever you are in your life, you'll get through it. Why? I've been here 2 years ago, depressed, dark, broke, didn't know what to do. I'm like, hey, we can get through this. Even this affects me, but it's like, no, seasons can change. Just because it's winter doesn't mean it has to stay winter in your life all the time. Spring and summer is coming, regardless of what the universe hasn't stopped, but maybe society stopped. But there's two different, universes. And it's like, we have our world and we have the universe, but nature is growing. I was pruning and cleaning up yesterday. I love doing that stuff. I'm such a farm boy at heart. And, but if that doesn't stop, you shouldn't stop. And I think we have a lot to learn from universe and nature.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's dive a little bit deeper into mindset, right? We are now in this time of, I guess you can call it, everyone's calling it uncertainty, or it's an uncomfortable time for most people, if not everyone. And times where, whether people are being laid off, people are, having to step away from their social activities. And it's just a huge change of just a lifestyle in general, right? So how are you, what tips or what actions are you taking day by day in order to keep yourself, still focused in your work, still focused in life, and making sure that you're not just, sleeping till 9, 10 a.m. every day and curling up in a ball and kind of hiding from all of this. And,
It does feel good once in a while.
yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, you need that once in a while, but,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's about those days in which you wake up at 4 a.m. when everyone else is sleeping till 9, 10 o'clock, that you're getting that, step ahead of everyone else. And you're preparing for when this is all going to come, unraveled in a way. How do you stay organized and how do you stay motivated during these times and consistently have that strong mental, mindset in a way?
Yeah, it's a great question, Steve. I think we have to understand that, methods can change, but the message should not. I think when you're anchored to your message, you're anchored into who you are, why you're doing what you're doing. That has to be, strong. That is your foundation towards your life, right? What is your mission? What is your purpose? So the world can have what had happened, but I think what this is exposing and kind of unveiling is those that didn't have a mission and those that weren't anchored into your strong purpose. Life was covering it up and it was kind of more surface. There was no foundation. And those that have a foundation, this doesn't like confuse them. What this does is maybe makes them realize like, all right, there's a different method I need to approach, right? At the end of the day, when you played sports or baseball, your goal is to get a hit, right? To hit the ball hard, a single, double, home run. But maybe your approach towards that pitcher or the weather or whatever it is has to be different. But the message, the goal has to be the same, right? And I think what this kind of does is this prunes certain things that we thought that were important that are really not, right? We got caught up in a world. I was in Africa last August. So, for me, when I look at, all right, you're going to lose everything. Yeah, of course you don't want to lose your house and this and that. But at the end of the day, we need three things. We need food, water, shelter. We don't need anything else. We don't need the iPhone. We don't need this. They're benefits, but I serve people with food, water, and shelter a lot less than we have. And we're tremendously happy in Africa. So of course you want to hang on and fight for the home that you live in or the car that you have, right? But really at the end of the day, if you're okay with knowing that you only need three things in life, you're not like afraid because if you're smart enough, you can get it back, right? And you may lose it. So sometimes the things that we lose makes us, I think there's a loss right now with a lot of people, but there's a tremendous appreciation where you're spending time with your family, your home. I got a message the other day, somebody read my book and then they messaged me and said, it's so interesting, reading your book is awesome. And I value this time being away from work because I couldn't take a long leave to be with my kids. And now, because I've had to work, I get to be with my kids. So there was a huge shift in kind of their mindset of them being grateful because of them not having to work. Now they can spend more time with their kids, which time is the most precious thing.
Mhm.
So I think personally, we've created a society that's extremely complex with tremendous benefits, like technology and complication. I mean, like what we're doing right now, being on video and Zoom and talking, there's beauty in that. But I think there's also, when there's too much complication in life, there's too much clutter. I think we lose our tendencies as species of what really makes us happy and what makes us full. Because literally, I did yard work yesterday all day. Some people are like, oh, that's crazy. I was like, I love being in nature. I said, I think nature is beautiful, and I think I've learned that from my grandpa too. We were talking about that with my mom this morning and yesterday, is like, value the smaller things because the big things won't always be there.
Mm.
I think this is what has happened, is people have valued toilet paper being at a supermarket.
Yeah.
Like, we never valued toilet paper, right? Now
Yeah.
you value it. It's like, oh, you can only take 2 or 4.
Mhm.
So you value your health, you value those bonds. And I've been victim of that too. Sometimes we don't value the things that are around us. Like, we don't value the tree that's blooming right now, and to know like it's the tree's giving us oxygen and clearing. So it's just, I think people are valuing because there's been loss, but I think, yeah, there's loss of lives and that's serious. But we're valuing things on a different perspective because of this.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I even just went on over the past 2 weeks. I've been going on a ton of neighborhood runs and walks and bike rides, and just noticing that people are more so in tune with nature, right? People are more so. I mean, I'm not seeing anyone on their phone, which is kind of an amazing thing. It's almost a restoration of humanity in a way, where people are getting out, going on these walks that they would never either have the time to or not make the time to do
Yep.
throughout the day. And I'm seeing about, I'd say 200% increase of the amount of people that are just out and about. And it almost reminds me of before, when I was younger, when we were outside in the neighborhood consistently, and you don't see that much anymore. I
Block
think,
parties.
yeah, and I think this is something that, humanity may be needed in a way, and give nature a little bit of a break from the emissions that are going on, and obviously transportation travel's been put to a halt a little bit, and I think it's good for us, believe it or not.
Yeah, and it's so important to find good through all things. Joy is a focus, not a feeling.
Hmm.
And I wasn't always that way, and I still work on it, but there is grace and there is tremendous blessings through adversities, through this or through whatever it is. And I think when you can shift that, you fill up your life cup, you feel better, and knowing what you can control and what you can't.
Absolutely. 100%.
Three
I mean,
weeks ago, we were booming as an economy and this and that, but that's physical wealth versus emotional wealth. It's two different things.
yeah, and learning to take that and channel that towards the right, um, the right, the right things, right? Is super super big, and kind of taking that and rolling into your focus and how you're staying focused in business. What steps are you taking to stay focused every single day and not let that the media get in your head, or not let the whole coronavirus, take you away from, your overall mission, your overall vision, and creating this life that you want to live, other than, this whole thing dragging you down.
Yeah, I think it's very important. There's a phrase that I use for me or family or just friends and people that I mentor is, are you complaining or are you creating? Right. And I think when you stay in that creative mindset versus that complaining mindset, I had a conversation with somebody the other day and they were complaining about an individual, and I let them complain and talk. I said, you know why you're so focused on that? I said, because you don't have any creativity in your life. If you had creativity in your life, you wouldn't have time to complain about somebody else that's doesn't even have relevance to you, a friend. So pray for them, be there for them. I said, but when you stay in a creative mindset, I think that's when you really be informed with what's going on, right? Like, get your sources. But I think when you're consumed by it, and not controlled by it, I think that's when you really start to have breakthroughs through this time. And sometimes we are just so controlled by people's opinions, controlled by people's perspectives or the media. And at the end of the day, the media could be, is I forgot who said this, but it's like the new modern day slavery in a way. It enslaves you, it controls you, it owns you. I mean, the media has put fear into us, right? And there is legitimacy, to certain things that have happened, right? With the fear of what it's done. I've had people personally affected by the virus. A good amount of them have done okay. Some of them have not. And so it's real, but I think you have to stay in this creative mode, in this reinvention mode during this time. Take an audit and say, okay, what am I going to do to prepare better financially, better, in my budget or savings, whatever it is, so that when this does happen, maybe not the same thing, but something else, how can I be prepared better? What did I not do that I can do? And that's why it's important to have multiple sources of income, have proper investments, have, e-commerce business. My e-commerce business has grown through all this time. Yeah, there's other things, like I lost money on certain things because of risks I took, and they were calculated, but like, hey, like when you're in event world and you put on events, you're like, hey, well, now you can't do that. Well, that's money lost. I mean, there's football and baseball and sports right now is losing tremendous amount of money, but you can't control that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think during this time, stay in creative mode, not in complaining mode. Don't be owned by it, be informed by it. And I think when you do that, you feel better, and be the architect of your own news. A lot of times we let other people be the architect of our news. And I think that's a very dangerous spot to be, because then when we look at the headlines, like, create headlines in your life that you enjoy to look at.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, just kind of soaking that in. Um, yeah, so I think a huge thing during this time is focusing on your brand, right? And being able to grow this brand while you have some extra time, while you have some free time, and maybe you have some less time at work. A lot of people are working from home, and I know that a lot of people are looking to get creating, right? What would you recommend to someone who's looking to start a brand, or um, better their uh, overall situation, whether it's a resource or something that they can just pick up and kind of learn from during these times where, at the end of the day, everyone has a little bit more time than they did, 2-3 weeks ago. And that's the bottom line here. So how can people take advantage of that, whether it's a resource or someone that they can potentially reach out to? Because I know even people who are mentors at this point are probably have a little bit more time on their hands than they did 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, you can catch them, a lot easier,
Yeah, totally.
podcasts. Um, I think, I think the time's always been there. I think, granted, maybe you don't have the 7, 8 hours, 9 hours because of work, which is huge, right?
Yeah.
Time's always there. I think it's, what you have to realize is that, what do you value with your time, right? One of the reasons why Seven Rock Life was created, not for the world, but for me, was a guideline to say, all right, what do I need to do today that I didn't do? Bike ride, go to church.
Mhm.
So it was always that balance, right? But I think there's two types of brands. You have your personal brand, which is who you are as a person, what you stand for. What's your identity statement? What's your why, right? And then you have like a brand that you create, like you have Revival, the hat you're wearing is a friend of ours, Third World, right? And I think in order for you to create a brand, first thing is you have to have a story behind that brand.
Mm.
Why did you call it that? What was the reason behind it? What was the story behind it? I think when you just name something to name something, but there's no story, a brand is a feeling. And if you don't have a feeling with a brand, then I think that's when it will expire, and it'll never give birth into the universe, right?
Mhm.
So there's got to be a reason. You can't just create it because I want to call it this name. Okay, but why? What was your mission behind it? And because that is your fuel, that is your fire when you name something, right? then after that, you have to say, okay, what is the service that we provide? What is the product that we provide? What am I going to learn? What am I going to, educate myself in to understand how to scale this brand? Because it's work, and you have to be prepared to kind of marry that brand in a way, through thick or thin. There's times where you have to be like, all right, this is not working, but you got to say, okay, why is it not working? And like you just said before, we have access to so many different things now, more than ever, to learn about something. And I think when you focused on the value that your brand's going to give, I think revenue will come. And revenue doesn't come in 6 months, a year, 2 years. And if it does, I don't think it's going to be long lasting. I think you have to really, it's a process, and you have to be willing to understand the more value you give in your quality, the name, the feeling, the logo, the work you put in it, and don't try to be perfect. Because perfection, like, you just started your podcasting and you make it happen. You're doing a great job. And I admire with that, because execution is really the number one thing that you have to do. Most people don't execute because they're afraid of what other people think. You know how much I care about what other people think? Don't care.
Yeah.
Now, I value it. I respect it. But I think sometimes friends, family will put limitations on you. Last year I did a bike ride 155 miles, and I had a lot of people. I had somebody who's a biker that did marathon. She go, "Are you crazy?" Limitation, mind. And I just said, no, I can't digest that. I mean, I can respect it, right? Because you're like, what are you doing? You've never done more than 5 miles in your life. Okay, I just got to do 15 times 10 miles and I'll hit 155 miles. And that was insane. But the point is that with branding, first you have to know your story behind it, know what things you have to do, the research, and every day just learn something. Like, I'll finish with this: creating a brand or creating a business is like building a home, where every day you don't just do it one at a time. You put, the gutters in, you're putting the windows in, you're always maintaining your home. You don't just build it and it's done. No, there's always maintenance that has to happen with your relationship, with your life. Like I'm in full maintenance. We're in full maintenance our whole life. We never just build something, because it's like imagine building our economy and saying it's done. We're fine. No, we're always maintaining it through, these stimulus packages now and the loan rates, and there's always maintenance happening. And I think when you live in this world that there's always maintaining has to be do. I had to prune yesterday, because if I don't prune, it is like a jungle here, where I live. So maintenance is an important thing with building your brand, building your life, building your business. These are key things.
Yeah. It's being organic about your growth, right? And making sure that every single day you are, being that person that is maintaining your home, right?
Yep.
And it's key. It's so key to just everything that you do and everything that you're growing day to day.
Yeah, no, it's everything, and I think when you realize that, it's definitely important. I had to move over here. Sorry.
You're good. You're good. Yeah, but I really appreciate you hopping on. Where can people find more about you, more about Steve? Where can they find your book? Where can they find you on Instagram, Facebook? Give us a little bit of an idea where we could find you and hunt you down.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. You can look our brand up on 7rocklife.com. So it's the word 7rocklife.com. Steven, Steven _ Mazzurco, Mazzurco. That's the Instagram handle. And you can see all of our different projects and keep up with us with what we're doing. And we're just all about increasing the human spirit and helping humanity through resources, through podcasting, through apparel. And just helping people become the best version, because we need it more than ever. And I think that's what we enjoy, the giving back aspect and spirit.
I love it, man. And I think that all kind of is, portrayed in your book. I think this is a perfect time for people to pick up a great book. Your book is perfect to organize your life, right? And to get those pieces all the way from your personal, literally organizing your room and your home, to your business and generating more income streams to get you where you want to go in business. So
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely recommend that. It's a personal read for me, and it's a real book, man. And I appreciate everything you're doing. Appreciate, you inspiring the world and creating, everything that you're creating day to day to push humanity forward and to help people, with their mindset, especially during times like we are in right now, in order to push forward and kick that door down and, obviously get out, on top on the other side, not necessarily, trying to, pick up some traction when this thing's all over. It's about getting your traction going right now for when this thing, kind of unravels. You're the one that's already on that, slow jog into the sprint on the way up the hill, when everyone else is still, getting up off the ground and figuring out what just happened.
Yeah, exactly. And I appreciate you. And if you're listening to this, Steve and his company Revival and everything he's doing is just one of the most authentic guys. Him and his fiance, and just great people, great company, and just a company of integrity. So I appreciate you, brother, man. Thanks for being a friend.
Absolutely,
Thanks
bro.
for having Son.
I appreciate you being here, and I know that we have plenty more to talk about. So we'll be doing this again soon. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank
Thanks,
you.
brother.
Bye, everyone.